Member for Richmond North Centre.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to speak on this motion of an issue that is impacting all British Columbians, especially those in my riding of Richmond North Centre. Housing has never been worse. I would like to start my remarks today by sharing a few words from the highest office in this chamber, the Premier and former Minister of Housing, who, as an opposition MLA, said, quote, "So it makes sense to me now that we have the data to see this astronaut family phenomenon of mum and kids being brought over from mainland China. The kid goes to school and the dad is at home in China working and supporting the family. Mum is only there with kids for the school year, and the house will appear to be vacant for a big chunk of the year," end quote. This was the Premier's own words to the Globe and Mail in 2015, following the revelation of its incredibly harmful, racially driven, and inappropriate claims that foreign families were driving up the prices in BC's real estate market. Housing has never been worse. And I don't think it's a surprise to anyone when the person running the province today is the same one that collated a study which took 172 names out of 42,000 homes sold and came to the conclusion that nearly 2/3 of the houses in the relatively small sample size in his riding were bought by people with non-Anglicized names. This conclusion is an example of ignorance, casual racism, and other example of this government's tendencies to point fingers and blame. And it's something that to this day, the Premier said yet to apologize for. The now Premier's harmful study did real damage as it implicitly made every person of Chinese heritage, including myself, complicit in the housing crisis, something that is demonstrably false because having an Asian name like myself doesn't make you a speculator. And it's very rich, I might add, coming from the Premier, who hypocritically flipped his own condo, selling it for $150,000 profit in 2019, just before the first speculation tax came into force, when he needed the money. But, according to the Premier, if you are Chinese, a different set of rules apply. Clearly, it's only okay for the Premier to sell his condo for a hefty profit, conveniently timed just before he would be penalized with a tax hike. Tying the tight housing market, because the NDP has done nothing to cool to one ethnic group, which I also belong, was terrible enough. But then, when the link was made to money laundering, the Premier's true colors showed. Housing is the worst it has been, as people in my riding face some of the highest living costs in the country, as renters shell out massive amounts of their monthly paychecks to keep up with low supply and high demand. What really strikes a nerve with my constituents is this government's apparent and total disconnect from the reality on the ground. While the members opposite rise and read off their notes with false rhetoric that paints an incorrect picture of the housing crisis, someone seeking to buy a home today in Vancouver will need to earn $23,350 more than last year. Here in Victoria, they will need to earn $25,500 more per year. At least we can all agree that housing has never been worse. And 6 years and 2 terms later, it only keeps getting worse. British Columbians are counting on the housing minister to wake up from a dream that everyone else seems to be missing, and instead serve the people with the results and outcome they deserve to see. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Noting the time, I ask the House be adjourned now.